Your thoughts on this story that came out moments ago?
Look, I think you're starting to see a bit of a demand issue in China. And that's something that I think Tesla's adjusting to. I still view it more near term, not a long-term systemic issue. But look, after a Cinderella story, that they're starting to clearly hit some hurdles in China.
Does that extend to Apple? Is that a Tesla problem or a broader problem?
I think it's more of a Tesla problem right now. I mean, Apple, right, if I look demand to supply, still about 3-1. Their issue continues to be supply, Apple, not demand. And I think that's why the stock still continues to hold in there, because of what we're seeing on iPhones globally. I think for Tesla, look, it's competition in China. They continue, I think, be in a very strong position, but you're starting to see cracks in the armor, and they need to adjust, and that's what you're starting to see here. But our thesis for 23 in terms of 2 million units globally continues to stand.
Others would start pushing back on that. We heard from Morgan Stanley downgrading their view of Apple as a result of some of the suppliers discussing a drawdown or a decline in some of the demand side. Is the lack of demand in China giving a pass to tech companies to start to divert business out of that nation a little bit more, especially in light of the turmoil we've seen over the past few years?
Yeah, Lisa, I think specifically for Apple, I mean, clock struck midnight in terms of what they've seen in China because of the Foxconn situation, the zero COVID. You're seeing a little loosening of that. But I think, it's really been a disaster in terms of Christmas. We're going to see about 10 to 15 million shortages because of what we're seeing in China. So I do think you're going to start to see diversifying out, potentially India, Vietnam, and others. And I think you're starting to see a changing of the tide there in terms of what we've seen in China the last few months.
So if you think that this is more of a Tesla story in terms of competition in China, a lack of demands at a time when that really had been a bright spot, how much is this pressured even further by this idea of a margin loan to Elon Musk to back Twitter, to refinance that's like backed by Tesla shares? I mean, just basically leveraging up some of his holdings.
Selling diamonds to buy a $2 slice of New York City pizza. I mean, it's essentially the problem with the Tesla story, using it essentially as an ATM machine. And I think that's really been an overhang on the Tesla story. The frustration continues to build because of, the Twitter circus show. And I think right now it's not what investors want to see at a time where demand, especially in China, this is finally a storm that Musk needs to navigate Tesla through.
So, Dan, why are you still at 250 on the stock? Outperform?
Because, I mean, my view is the 2023 and 2024 story, that's still 2 million units. I still view this as more of a soft patch, not the start of what I view as a broader structural issue. And in terms of EV, I mean, I think we're going to see that in terms of adoption double in China over the next 2 to 3 years. Tesla's going to be a big, major part of that. I just think for right now, it's been a magic carpet ride, and they're finally hitting some uncertainty, and they need to navigate through it.